and welcome to the latest edition of Deccan Herald Newsroom. Today we are discussing the upcoming winter session of Parliament, which starts on the 1st of December. It is going to be a 19-day session and it's going to end in the third week of December. Joining me for the discussion is Shemin Joy, who covers the opposition parties for Deccan Herald in Delhi, and Amrita Madhukalia, who covers the NDA. This session, the government has listed 10 bills for the introduction and passing and 2 bills which will be considered and passed, which may have been introduced in the earlier sessions. Multiple bills of importance, including one that would regulate the atomic energy in India, production of power through the atomic energy in India. There's one bill to have one consolidated body to regulate the higher education that would subsume various bodies like the AITC, the UGCs, and various other bodies. And then there are various other supplementary demands for grants, which the government goes to the parliament to withdraw money to keep its functioning going for the remaining part of this financial year. To start with, Amrita, the Parliamentary Affairs Minister, Kiran Rijiju, has made a very caustic remarks ahead of this session. Obviously, BJP is little buoyant after the Bihar victory that any disruptions are going to be seen as something that would be politically detrimental to the opposition party, especially the India Bloc. So the shadow of the Bihar election certainly would be cast on this particular session, isn't it?
Yes, I think if you trace the attitude or the way the NDA or the ruling party the ruling BJP primarily has behaved since the 2024 Lok Sabha elections, you see that there has been an increase in terms of aggression in their stance. So when 2024 happened, they had reduced numbers and they were quieter and they were letting the conversations flow. They were willing to make more compromises. But then after with every successive session, you see that the BJP is more emboldened, and not necessarily because they have won a particular state or the other, but because of their very calculated moves and strategical, steps that they have taken in different spheres, whether it is a scheme, whether it is an election. But yes, to answer your question specifically, after the Bihar election, I think the BJP is not going to make any compromises. It is not going to listen to what the opposition has to say. And you can see that in terms of how the parliamentary affairs minister has sort of placed that stance in front of us. We've also seen that Rijiju is not like Prahlad Joshi, his predecessor. He doesn't make too much of a he doesn't let too much of a room around for the opposition. He has conversations, but then he doesn't walk the extra mile. I think he feels that there is no need for the party to do so. So yes, we're looking at a stormy session. We're looking at more fights between the opposition and the NDA.
Well, yes, because it generally does. In a parliamentary democracy like ours, when we have the provincial elections every year, any election which brings a reprieve for the ruling party at the center, it gives them relief in dealing with the opposition and the allies at the center, especially if you're not running a majority government on your own. And then
Yes.
obviously, in dealing with the opposition, and vice versa, if the opposition comes out with flying colors in the assembly elections, then they put more pressure on the state government. I mean, imagine a situation where if BJP would not have done as well as it did in Maharashtra, Haryana, and Bihar, when they were leading a government with only 240 MPs. Coming to Shemin, what does this session mean for the opposition, especially when they led the entire campaign on the SIR, on vote chori, and now getting a drubbing in Bihar? Does it not, challenge or, the entire campaign or the narrative on this line? It crumbles under the weight of the Bihar defeat, isn't it?
Yeah, ideally, I mean, the opposition is a little demoralized after the Bihar elections, but if they are not going to display that kind of a weakness this time, there will be more rhetoric on SIR, the special intensive revision. There are 5 elections coming up in April, May in 4 states and then union territory. So, like in the monsoon session, we can see a lot of protests or demands for a special discussion on SIR. That will be one of the major major subject which will be raised by the opposition. The Trinamool Congress has already made it clear that it will be their main issue. Today, the Trinamool Congress delegation also met the election commission. Congress is also not leaving the vote chori plank, especially with Rahul Gandhi taking up the issue and the Bihar review, majorly focusing on the vote chori and the alleged electoral malpractices. So there was an interesting comment by an opposition leader the other day. In Delhi, we are talking about the air quality index, AQI. And in Parliament, when the session starts, we will be discussing the democracy quality index, DQI. So there will be a lot of chatter on this democracy quality index, as they call it, vis-a-vis the air quality in Delhi.
So, apart from the political issues, if we come to the legislative business, there are a couple of very important bills lined up. Amrita, this bill on the higher education now, council or a body that would subsume all other bodies, this has been discussed. It has been
For a while.
doing the rounds for a very, very long time now. We've seen. Uh, what are we looking at? If one want to look at the fine print of it, are we looking at a body which will have everything, the technical council, the UGC, the higher education, everything? Does it also include the bodies like the NCRT and other bodies which would be coming under one umbrella body?
Not the NCRT. Basically, all the regulatory bodies for higher education. For example, the UGC, the AICT, which is for technical education, the NTA, and basically the idea was in 2000, I think 18 or something. The idea was mooted around 2018ish, but then somehow it didn't proceed. Somehow it didn't. We couldn't find basically to do something like bring such an overhaul in higher education is not so easy. There are too many complex issues involved. So I think it didn't go. The government could not go the extra mile, and then it stopped. The idea was sort of was halted. In 2020, after the NEP came, the NEP is like a document through which you're going to run the
The
education
doctrine.
sector. Yes, a doctrine, and the NEP specifically mentions an overhaul. It mandates an overhaul, not just mentions it. So after that, I think then UGC chairperson Jagdish Mamidala, who used to be the JNU VC prior to this, and got together with ministry officials and I think other experts, and they started drafting this whole legislation. Because I think the current education minister Dharmendra Pradhan said that we should restart the conversation. So and again, to our mind it pattered. The whole idea sort of like we felt that the idea had stopped for a bit because the last conversation we saw amongst officials was around 2022. So we thought we assumed that this is not going to happen. But again, now recently we've come to it's back in conversation. It remains to be seen if the legislation indeed sees passage because we don't know what kind of conversations will take place over the floor at the floor of the house. But yes, I mean the idea is to the idea is to centralize and decentralize at the same time. The idea is to make sure that not you don't run around in two different bodies, three different bodies for different kinds of education, but you centralize in a certain sense. The new body will have four different verticals. One is for UGC, what UGC used to do. One is for NAC, basically for accreditation. The other is AICT, technical education, and then the fourth is for teacher overhaul, basically teaching
Just training.
outcomes and for teacher training. Yes. So
Okay, thank you.
that's
Okay. So, Shamin, one last question to you. The other important legislation is one dealing with the nuclear power and the energy. Now, this goes back to almost 15, 16 years when India signed a nuclear deal with the US. And there were also concerns uh, from the private players who wanted to enter this particular field. Uh, what is new in this, and how does this affect India's power generation, especially the nuclear power generation?
See, right now we don't have much details in the public domain about what is the content of the bill. What we have heard earlier is that there will be issues related to the nuclear liability provisions
Awesome.
and
Yeah.
how the entry of private sector in the nuclear energy production. So this comes from the Indo-US nuclear deal of 2007. So we have to wait for the fine print because these are sensitive issues, and how the private sector will be reacting to the provisions, for how much leverage the government will be giving to the private sector. All these things we will have to look at. Another issue during this session, which I wanted to say earlier, was the government is also planning to, maybe what we are hearing is that the government is also wants to hold a discussion on the 150th year of Vande Mataram. So we also have to see how opposition will react to it. Opposition will be asking for a debate on SIR, and will they compromise? Will they accept this the government proposal for a discussion on Vande Mataram?
That's
Both
affect
legislative,
Bengal.
yeah, both political and legislative business are high on agenda in this session. So we'll have to wait and see how this 15 days of working, 15 working days spread over 19 days, how it will pan out. We'll have to see. It will be interesting days for all of us.
Yeah, thank you, Shamin. Thank you, Amrita, for joining
Thank you.
us. We'll keep you updated with all the latest developments in Parliament with our reporters there covering the day's developments. And also, especially from Karnataka, if there is anything important which comes up, if there are issues taken up by the MPs who represent Karnataka, we would try to bring them to you every day from the Parliament House. Thanks for watching. And we'll come back to you with another episode of Deccan Herald Newsroom. Thanks much.